Okay, so for this video, I know it's a little different from what I usually do, but not completely out of the realm of kind of normal for me. I mean, I've talked about stuff besides just explicitly one video game. And honestly, this is still pretty on point for my channel, I would say, but what was it, Saturday? I saw that the Five Nights at Freddy's movie had finally come to Amazon Prime. So of course I said, hell yeah, I'm watching this because I was wanting to watch the movie when it came out. And honestly, hearing so many good things about it, I was definitely excited to watch it. So I went in watching it as a person who I haven't read all the books, but I watched Rye Toast is pretty popular now. Of course, Game Theory, just plenty of different channels who theorized. I've watched, all the gameplay of all the games except for FNAF World. But other than that, I've, watched all the gameplay. So I have a lot of knowledge, I would say, of Five Nights at Freddy's in that regard. I wasn't a person who walked in just kind of knowing the first game and going from there. So just to give a point for that. And now obviously I can't really show clips of the movie and everything, so we're just doing this. I figured it might be more interesting for me to do a voiceover of just some gameplay, so enjoy whatever gameplay I ended up deciding to put here. But yeah, without further delay, let's go ahead and talk about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Now, I will say I'm going to try to not talk super specific, and I'm definitely not going to talk about the ending, but I will give a spoiler warning just because there is some stuff I'm going to talk about. And, I know if you're like me, I was very careful avoiding anybody talking about the movie or giving reviews or anything, at least in depth, because I wanted to go in as blind as possible. I'd seen the trailers and watched some people's theories on the trailer, like Sheep Rampage. He's another person who I watch a lot. I watched that stuff, but I went in as blind as I possibly could otherwise when it came to this movie. And honestly, I think that's the best way to go if you are a big fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, because I mean, obviously if you don't really know anything about the games, you're not super into the lore and everything, it's not, you're gonna be pretty easy to go in without spoilers and whatnot. But if you're someone like me who is in a lot of people's theory videos and everything, yeah, it's definitely more likely you would see something. But honestly, I'll admit I was a little nervous with this movie, and not even for the PG-13 rating instead of R and all that people were talking about. And there were some things I was like, okay, I know obviously there's going to be changes to stuff, because there were things in the preview, how there was a cop character named Vanessa who, if you know Five Nights at Freddy's, it's well, Vanessa doesn't come into play until Security Breach, and she was just mall security and everything. So that was definitely weird. And then you had the main character and you're like, okay, he's Mike Schmidt. And we all knew that Matthew Lillard was William Afton Springtrap. But the thing is, the previews and everything showed him sitting at a desk as William Afton. So it's okay, obviously there's changes. And then there was the kid character of the little sister. So, it's okay, who is Abby and what's all going on here? So I went in knowing, and the fact that it's a movie anyway, obviously there are going to be changes from the games. Let's just be real. You're not going to sit there and expect the movie to be exactly like the games and to follow the exact same storyline. And honestly, I'm glad it didn't, because we can all be honest that the story and just trying to figure out all the mysteries at this point, it's gotten so convoluted and a little ridiculous. I think we can all be honest about that I'm glad the movie is 100% doing its own thing. The only thing it did is it's taking, of course, The basic main story beats of Five Nights at Freddy's. It's closed down. Mike Schmidt is being a security guard overnight there. The animatronics obviously are haunted and come to life, and there were children's disappearances. So it takes those like main story beats that make FNAF, but it changed other stuff story-wise that honestly works really well for it. And like, so the acting in this movie, it was all good. Like the shots and everything, I thought it was done very well. The animatronics, they look great. And like you could tell, kind of, but it was actually pretty hard to tell if it was an animatronic or a person in a suit, because the way like the actors were moving when they were wearing the suits to make the animatronics moved, like, oh my gosh, they did so good with that. And of course, you know, the animatronics, they just look amazing in general because it was Jim Henderson's Creature Shop and he's the one who did like the Muppets and everything. So, and I'd seen the pictures of like the work in progress and stuff on those, so I wasn't worried about that. But yeah, they looked really good. They were so well done. I loved the way the animatronics move and everything. And I know a lot of people had a problem with like the red eye thing, and I can understand why, but they did make it make sense in the movie, because the red eye, like, it was only happening, and again, I'm just gonna give, you know, another kind of spoiler warning for some story stuff, but it would only happen when William Afton was controlling them. So it was supposed to be a clear distinction between when the ghost children are being themselves and when Afton is controlling them, because there's a whole thing, like, the movie didn't explain how he's controlling them necessarily. I think it's kind of like supposed to be through the Springtrap head, but it never really explicitly explained how he's controlling them. But there are going to be 2 more movies, so it might go more into detail with that. But like, I do know, so the children, like, the only reason they even follow him and don't question stuff is, and it kind of makes sense, you know, if you're unalived, of course, the children don't really remember the fact that it was William Afton who is the one who led them into a back room and unalived them. So, of course, you know, he's spinning the narrative that he's friends with them, he's there to protect them, and they just don't have the memory of what exactly happened. So, of course, that's why, you know, they're gonna follow him. Now, honestly, this movie, too, it did have, like, some kind of, you know, your regular run-of-the-mill jump scares, but it also did a lot of more, like, effective, not loud, jumping something in your face jump scares. There was, like, you know, the subtle stuff. There was a running joke with a little balloon boy figurine of, like, him being a loud jump scare. I thought that was kind of funny, honestly. But they had some effective shots of, you know, like, when these people went to go, like, kind of rough up, yeah, I guess that's the right word, vandalize the inside of Freddy's to try and get Mike in trouble. Like, it's the first time we're seeing the animatronics really moving and doing anything. And so there are some, you know, good subtle, you could, I guess they're kind of jump scares, but maybe just scares of, like, they'll be walking by, and with the camera moving with them, you'll see just in the background behind a door the dark shadow of an animatronic walking by. And the thing is, the movie doesn't make any, like, sudden noise. It doesn't necessarily try to, like, make it jump out visually either. It's just you notice it, and it just is a subtle scare in that way to, like, just, oh, you know, build up the tension, which was really nice, that not everything, you know, had to be a big jump scare. Now, I will say, too, I like the way they did, like, some of the unaliving of the crew who was coming to destroy Freddy's. Like, I thought it was, and it was kind of intense and gory, you know, as much as they could get away with being PG-13, which, in my opinion, part of what, like, makes Freddy's good, and I'm not someone who is a prude and, like, I hate gore or anything, but I think it has a place. And there's a time where, okay, if you're just putting it everywhere, it doesn't feel like it's adding anything. There's a time and place for it. And I feel like Five Nights at Freddy's, it did it right. Because it didn't have it, being overly used. And part of the appeal for the game is the fact that it would freak you out without really showing anything explicit and graphic. Like all the really, graphic and explicit stuff, it was just explained to you through newspaper clippings. So honestly, like, it makes sense that, of course, they had to show, some of what the animatronics can actually do. But I definitely feel like it was better that they went the route of not going over the top gore with the movie. Because like I said, it just would not, at least in my opinion, it would not have serviced the movie very well. So honestly, I'm really glad that it did it that way. And a lot of the story stuff that they changed, I mean, maybe some people wouldn't like it, but honestly, I think if you treat it as it's definitely its own thing, it's creating its own universe, its own narrative, its own explanation of timelines, it's not really supposed to be tied to the games or the books or anything, I think it's fantastic. And honestly, as it stands right now at least, it's making a lot more of a clear and concise story for people to follow. Because that's something even my husband has talked about, that he just can't get into Freddy's because at this point, the story and understanding all the lore and everything is just so convoluted and crazy. And at this point, there's not even full understanding of it. So it's kind of a turnoff. And that is a huge thing with Freddy's. If you weren't there at the beginning, good luck getting into all the lore and understanding everything now, because it's a bit of a hot mess. Let's just be real. But I love how the movie, it uses things that draw in an audience who already knows the game. Sorry if you can hear my dog snoring, by the way. But I think it did a perfect balance of bringing in new people. So making a clear, concise story that if you've never even heard of Freddy's, you can watch the movie and have a clear, concise story, learn everything you really need to know. You don't have to go to any other media. If you didn't play the games, you're not really missing anything. You can 100% enjoy this movie. And then if you do know about the games, you can appreciate the calls because you know the names, and Vanessa and the changes they did. And there's even some calls, to the audience, because Matt Pat has a cameo in the movie. It plays a bigger role in the overall movie, but there is a book called Dream Theory, which Mike Schmidt, the main character, uses a lot. And like I said, it does fit a lot more in with the overall story. But I do also think it's kind of a throwback to when Five Nights at Freddy's 4 came out and the Dream Theory was a big deal, and a lot of the fans hated it, which, yeah, I can see it's a cop-out, but Dream Theory isn't always bad. But I feel like even though it was used as a big story element, I do feel like it also is kind of if you were in the fandom, then you know. So it honestly is something, because a lot of movies and stuff will struggle to do that, because the Warcraft movie, anybody who was a fan of World of Warcraft, I really wasn't when I saw it, so I thought the movie was fine, but it alienated the World of Warcraft audience. It was only able to bring in new people. And that's what a lot of these movies and stuff struggle with, is finding the balance of bringing in new people to be able to enjoy it while also catering to an audience who already really knows and loves it. And I think this movie did a fantastic job, and I honestly can't wait for the second and third movie. If you haven't seen it already, it's on Peacock, it's on Amazon Prime now. Those are the two places I know of to see it. I 1,000% highly recommend go see it. I'm honestly giving this movie an 8.5 out of 10. It was great. I had a great time with it. I'm trying to convince, because my husband's not really much of a movie and TV watcher. He just games more often, but I'm trying to convince him to watch the movie. I might be able to get him to, I don't know. But yeah, definitely go check this movie out. It's great. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like. You don't have to, but it helps let me know if maybe you enjoy me kind of talking about something a little different like this. Still on point with video games and kind of nerd culture. But yeah, I mean, be honest down in the comments. In the comments below, leave, hey, did you like this movie? Were you someone who went in knowing a little about FNAF, a lot, or none? I'd love to know. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I upload every Friday. My Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, second channel, all linked down below if you want to know all that good stuff. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day. Bye!